Hello, Wolf Pack. We're going to do something a little different today. So let's go. Hey there. We're going to do something a little different today. We're going to have a video that does not have a performance. It's by request for the song Dystopia Symphony. And this video comes with lyrics and it comes with photos and that kind of thing. So it'll give us something to look at while we listen to the song. So let's take a look at this first and give it a good listen, okay? I've not heard this song before, so here we go. Well, that was top notch, wasn't it? What songwriting. There isn't a bad Lovebites song. You might have some you like better than others, but you can't say any of them are, poorly executed, poorly written, lazy, any of that. None of it. Because they simply pay attention to every single detail of what they do. And I know we've talked about that before, so I won't belabor the point, but it's incredible to believe or to see them carry this out song after song after song after song. Even the recording in the studio, that's a busy recording. There's a lot of tracks happening there. It didn't happen in an hour, most likely. About this band, I want to read a couple of comments to you that I read, and they kind of struck me. I don't know if I mentioned who requested this song, but it was Miyako. And thank you for that request. Love that song. And I hope you liked the video. I thought there were some great screenshots there that would make great wallpaper, especially if you play a guitar. And, or any other part of that. I thought Miyako had some good shots in there. Haruna, I mean, they all did. Alan Hewling 598 mentioned that he felt that that they do everything in the right amounts, that everything is well thought out and intentional and beautifully executed. And he talked about everything from the outfits to the stage presence, song selection, song notes. He said the notes, the choruses, the verses, the leads, the rhythms. And he's right. I know exactly what he means when he says the right amounts of everything. They're not too heavy. Some bands you like because of a particular thing, it's because they lean heavy into it, right? So in this case, this is why Lovebites is a once-in-a-lifetime band, because they do everything like it's what they're leaning into. So everything comes off as epic, and you don't know where to listen to first. Whatever's happening right, there's something going on left, and something behind you, and something ahead of you, and you can't catch your breath with them. And that's awesome. 785 Boats, I think, said it best. He or she said they have their own genre. Class metal. Excellent. There are not many bands that fall into that genre. Off the top of my head, I would say Bandmate might be one of them. They're a class act. But I think Lovebites defines that genre. Don't you? I mean, for everything, again, for all the reasons that Alan said, they pay attention to detail, and by doing so, they look classy in everything they do, and they sound classy. Their music is very high-class stuff. I mean, just listen to that last song. The piano work in there was classical, and it was mesmerizing how it fit into that. I don't know, what was it? 1 million beats a minute. I do want to say, if you're in the comments and you're saying to me, that was 195 beats a minute, I'm like, yeah, I get that. It wore me out just listening to it. But I think once you get past 160 or so, it's all the same. This might have been 175 beats a minute, but it's still going to be exhausting. How they do that, for a 2-hour concert is beyond me. I mean, I guess when I was young, I might have been able to do it. I know we did some pretty hot and tiring and long concerts from time to time. And maybe that's, would surprise me now to know that I've done that if I thought it through. But what they're doing, every one of them is on an extremely on the edge of what they can do, which is always exhausting no matter what profession you're in. Boys at You said that he thought this might be, I think it was Soldier Sands Solitarily, that he thought that might be one of his favorite songs ever. So I want to show you something about how guitarists work together. And you've probably already seen it if you're a Lovebites fan, but let me pick it apart for a minute. Let's watch this. This is them working up Fami's bass audition. So let's listen to Midori and Miyako do this. Okay, that was excellent, obviously. Now, what you are watching them do is one time. And I promise you that when they're working up these solos, you see how they're set up here? I think I imagine in my mind that they probably, even if they don't do it right here every time, they have this exact same setup. They've got their software up and running the backing track behind it, because you could hear the rhythm guitar come in when they both took over leads. So what I want to point out here is how they approach what they're doing and why they do it that way, or why I think they do it that way. Again, this is my opinion. It has nothing to do with reality. It just has to do with the way I see it. But when they're playing, notice that they don't have any problem throwing their parts back and forth, right? So they can do that because before you saw this, they played this 150 times. 200, 500, whatever they thought they had to do to get it to here. Now, as they work together longer and longer and longer and get better and better and get more and more used to certain attacks that they do in the middle of a lead or in the middle of a rhythm, or they get used to each other's dynamics, and we'll talk about dynamics a little more in a minute, then these sessions go quicker. They can, maybe do half that many to get note for note. Why do they do that way? I mean, they both know their solos. They both know their rhythm parts. They both know what it is that they want to do. Well, there's two reasons for it. The first one is you want to be able to play this in your sleep. You want to be able to play in a dark room with a bunch of distractions, people throwing tomatoes at you if you suck, all that kind of stuff. You want to keep playing through that. And you have to have it in your fingers. It has to get from your head. It goes from your heart to your head where you work it out. You work out the dynamics of it. And then from your head, it goes down to your fingers as a guitarist. Or if you're Haruna, it goes into your feet, your legs, your arms, your hands. It goes into every way that you attack an instrument. If you're Miho, she does the same thing that they do. Only she does it a little bit differently, but it's not that different. Her approach is going to be the same. And in fact, at some point, they probably bring Miho into this. Well, of course they do. When they bring Miho into this, she'll run through it with them multiple times. But there's a second reason for that. And the second reason is not only do they want it to be note for note perfect without any mistakes in a live performance or even in the studio where you're wasting valuable time that you've paid for, but also note for note because they're listening to what they're doing. So they're paying attention to the dynamics of what they're doing. Now, this might not be as important right here because it's an audition demo. Okay, so they're giving a backing track to Fami and the other bassist that came to audition, and they're giving them both a backing track to run. This is what we normally do. This is what we kind of sound like. This is what we like to run. This is some of our favorite runs. This is some of our favorite changes in timing. You know, when we decide to change up here and there. Let's see if you can handle that. Okay, then we'll go on to the other stuff. We'll go on to the real deal. So this is probably not as critical as if they were working out, say, Scream for Me or something, you know, where they've got the dual workout for 2, 3, 4 solid minutes of lead guitar work that they're interchanging. That's when they'll take a section of it and they'll work it out. The repetitive nature of doing that requires you to listen to what you're doing. At some, you know, because when you're playing, you have a tendency, you can start thinking about other things. Oh, you know, I need to pay that bill today, and because it's in your fingers, right? Once it gets to your fingers, you're not really paying attention as closely to what you're doing as you were when you were still working it out and getting your fingers in the right spot and things like that. And I've said all that to say this. When they repeat that over and over, that cycle, as they work it out, you know, if they do it 100 times, 200's better. 200, 400's better. Why? Because when they do that, they hear things they didn't hear the first 150 times. Or they feel something dynamically that they didn't feel the first 150 times. And they say, hey, let's change that. So what they do when they do this repetitively is they're refining what they already have written. And that's the part a lot of bands miss. That's why you'll go to a nightclub and you'll hear a band and they'll be like this. They'll be attention to detail. Well, that's because they sat in a garage somewhere and played the same song over and over again 500 times. And everything they did, they paid attention to it. They were listening. So you play it 100 times because maybe 38 of those times you weren't there for it in your mind, you know. But the other times you were, and you hear something and you go, well, that doesn't sound right. Or wait a minute, I want that could be better. Or wait a minute, let's make this and change the dynamic here. And that's what they're doing when they do this. No doubt in my mind, they were here a long time before you saw this video. And so when they're doing that, they're working out the details, okay? So that's how you get a band. So when you hear a band in a nightclub that sounds jangly, they're not tight. We call it tightness. They're not tight because they haven't been repetitive. It's all about practice. It's all about doing something. It's like that for everything in life, right? You get better at something the more you do it. And it's not just doing it till you get to a certain point. It's doing it ad infinitum. Forever, never, amen. Never finish. Always play that lead solo again. They go and they practice new songs. They throw in old ones and they play them over again. They listen to what they're doing. That's what makes them such a great band. That's what makes them top of the heap. Hall of Fame, once in a lifetime, gift of God, whatever you want to call them. It's because they work. They're busting their asses, and they're doing it day after day after day. If they take any time off, I promise you they're still thinking about what they're doing because they can't stop. They're consumed by what they do, and they should be because they're absolutely at the top of their game and getting better, which is amazing. So I wanted to point that out because that's where you begin to see dynamics in a band. And dynamics are everything. You hear them all the time, but you don't notice it if you're not a musician. Albums that were put out in the early 70s started playing with dynamics because album rock was a thing. It was important to make an album make sense from beginning to end. Now, you might be able to make it make sense on one side, flip a side, and make it make sense on the other side, and that's fine. You can do that too, as long as your listener gets the idea of what's happening in first song out on the second side. So dynamics are important in everything. So a dynamic is important in a lead run that you're doing. Dynamic is important in a chord progression that you're doing. Dynamics are important in the vocals that you do. Because it's not always, it's almost always about the circle of fifths, but it's not always about the circle of fifths because sometimes you can step outside that circle if you understand dynamics. And great songwriters understand dynamics. That's why they can write formula songs all day. That's what they were doing in the 60s when you started hearing all that pop music coming out in the 60s, which I love, but it's formula. It's the same song over and over again, just twisted a different way. Different arrangement, different instruments, different vocal arrangement. All that kind of thing can change it up. But the dynamic was always there. It builds up a certain feeling. You get to the peak and the climax of the feeling, and then there's release. So that's how that works, even down to a lead solo. So when they're working this out, they're hearing their dynamics. And they're saying, is the dynamic right? Is this what we want to sound? Is the feeling we want to generate? So then they take that and they put that in a song that has to have dynamics from beginning to end. And they may have worked out the most incredible dueling lead ever written on the face of the planet, and they have to kill their darlings because when they get there, it doesn't fit in the song. They have to change it. They have to alter it. They have to make it fit in the rest of the song. But typically, you do both at once, so you get, you don't have that problem, but it can happen. It just can. So once you get the song dynamic correct, if you care about album dynamics, and some bands do and some don't, then you got to fit it in the right spot. What track is this going to be? Where does this belong? I know they do. I haven't even listened to an album by them yet, but I can guarantee you they pay attention to that because they pay attention to it in their concerts. They come out, and the first thing they do is they deliver the message to you. They hit you square in the face, give you a bloody nose, and say, this is how it's going to be from this point on. And then they build you to this climax, and they don't give you release until they're sure that they've got you at the absolute peak of emotion. And that's how they arrange their songs. That's how every band should do it, even when you're playing small nightclubs or somebody's party or somebody's wedding, because that's why you're there. You're there to spirit that person away from their daily life. You're there to change their soul if you can, if you're that good. These girls are that good. They can make you aspire to that which you can't even give a name to. But your soul is longing for it because you can hear it. And that's why they are geniuses at what they do. Their dynamics are second to none. Their work ethic is second to none. There are bands that have worked this hard. Rush is one of them, easily one of them. But this type of consistency from the beginning of the formation of this band to this point is breathtaking. Because the amount of work that they're doing, it staggers my mind. And it's hard to walk the line between cracking the whip and being an asshole. Those are two different things. But the whip has to be cracked. It must be cracked, or you'll never achieve this kind of perfection. I mean, I don't know what else to call it. When I watch these ladies play, they're not the only thing I'm paying attention to, because none of what they do would matter if the band behind them wasn't keeping up, or if Asami's voice could not reach those heights or fill that auditorium the way it does, or absolutely explain those dynamics to you the way she does. So I know that sounds esoteric, and it probably is, but from a performer's standpoint, when I watch this, that's how it makes me feel. It makes me feel giddy almost with the idea that these 5 human beings have achieved this level of musical talent and perfection. So I wanted to address that, and if you ask any of my old bandmates, they'll tell you I always crack the whip on dynamics, because dynamics set your mood and send you out of the concert feeling a certain way, or leave you at the end of an album feeling a certain way, or leave you at the end of a song feeling a certain way. And that's what you're trying to achieve. Dynamics are everywhere. They're in movies. If you don't have dynamic in a story, in a book, all of that story, no matter how good the plot is or anything else, is worthless without the dynamic of taking you to the mountain and then crashing you down in the valley and then giving you escape at the end. So they do this. They know how to do this. Not only do they know how to do it, but they're experts at it. Just incredible, incredible concerts. And what I have heard of their albums, the production is second to none. So they're paying attention to every little thing that happens. Somebody said they have to run Miyako out of the engineering room. I don't blame her. It's her baby. I don't blame her one bit for being in there. The Beatles were notorious for that. I mean, if you watched Peter Jackson's documentary, you saw him sitting in there with him. When they're playing back the music, they're listening to the tapes. But I guarantee you, when they started mixing, Lennon was in there, because he was definitely an opinionated man about his music. And he wasn't going to let you just do it. I mean, Epstein might be the only guy that ever got away with that. Maybe. But these ladies, all 5 of them, and Miho, I say 6 now, because Fami seems to be doing a great job. I mean, she's an incredible bassist. Absolutely incredible. Miho, you can tell. I mean, you could tell the heart and soul that she put into this band. And I can't imagine the reasons for leaving it, but, their life is what it is. And it doesn't always have to do with anything to do with the band. So that's that. I wanted to say that because they blow me away day after day after day. Listening to the same songs, I still hear something new, and I know I'm going to for years to come, should God let me live that long, because they are who they are. I hope they have another 2 decades together, because they're a gift, and we need to keep that gift in our hands as long as we can. So, having said that, I do want to point out one little thing I just noticed. You see that little orange amp underneath the computer monitor? See that sitting down there? Okay, so the song Whole Lot of Love by Led Zeppelin? If you do, the guitar sounds like it's coming through a Marshall double stack, right? It's not. It's coming through one of those 10-watt amps. Yep, that's what Jimmy Page used in the studio to play Whole Lot of Love. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go listen to the opening track of that song. Just listen to that whole guitar. It's an incredible sound. And if you've ever played through one of those, you know why. But, I mean, it's still only 10 watts. It's amazing what you can do in the studio and what they could do even in 69, 70. So, anyway, I just want to point that out. It's a silly little guitar thing. So, anyway, I love you guys. And I hope you enjoyed this. I could listen to these ladies all day and often do. So here we go, as Dak Prescott likes to say. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I love you. You've been a great support, and I'll see you next time. Bye now.